she went out of the city, guided by the light of the moon, and on her way she met a fox, who asked her if she wished for company. "Of all things, my friend," replied Grannonia, "I should be delighted, for I am not over well acquainted with the country." So they travelled along together till they came to a wood, where the trees, at play like children, were making baby houses for the shadows to lie in. And as they were now tired and wished to rest, they sheltered under the leaves, where a fountain was playing tricks with the grass, throwing water on it by the dishful. There they stretched themselves on a mattress of tender soft grass, and paid the duty of repose which they owed to nature for the merchandise of life. They did not awake till the sun, with his usual fire, gave the signal to sailors and travellers to set out on their road. And after they awoke, they still stayed for some time, listening to the songs of the birds, in which Grannonia took great delight. The fox, seeing this, said to her, "You would feel twice as much pleasure if, like me, you understood what they are saying." At these words, Grannonia, for women are by nature as curious as they are talkative, begged the fox to tell her what he had heard the birds saying. So, after having let her entreat him for a long time, to raise her curiosity about what he was going to relate, he told her that the birds were talking to each other about what had lately befallen the king's son, who was as beautiful as a jay. Because he had offended a wicked ogress, she had laid him under a spell to pass 7 years in the form of a serpent, and when he had nearly ended the 7 years, he fell in love with the daughter of a king, and being one day in a room with the maiden, he had cast his skin on the ground, when her father and mother rushed in and burned it. Then, when the prince was flying away in the shape of a dove, he broke a pane in the window to escape, and hurt his head so severely that he was given over by the doctors. Grannonia, who thus heard her own onion spoken of, asked if there was any cure for this injury. The fox replied that there was none other than by anointing his wounds with the blood of those very birds that had been telling the story. When Grannonia heard this, she fell down on her knees to the fox, entreating him to catch those birds for her, that she might get their blood, adding that, like honest comrades, they would share the gain. "Fair and softly," said the fox, "let us wait till night, and when the birds are gone to bed, trust me to climb the tree and capture them, one after the other." So they waited till day was gone, and Earth had spread out her great black board to catch the wax that might drop from the tapers of night. Then the fox, as soon as he saw all the birds fast asleep on the branches, stole up quite softly, and one after another throttled all the linnets, larks, tomtits, blackbirds, woodpeckers, thrushes, jays, flycatchers, little owls, goldfinches, bullfinches, chaffinches, and redbreasts that were on the trees. And when he had killed them all, they put the blood in a little bottle, which the fox carried with him to refresh himself on the road. Grannonia was so overjoyed that she hardly touched the ground. But the fox said to her, "What fine joy in a dream is this, my daughter? You have done nothing, unless you mix my blood also with that of the birds." And so saying, he set off to run away. Grannonia, who saw all her hopes likely to be destroyed, had recourse to woman's art, flattery. And she said to him, "Gossip fox, there would be some reason for your saving your hide if I were not under so many obligations to you, and if there were no other foxes in the world. But you know how much I owe you, and that there is no scarcity of the likes of you on these plains. Rely on my good faith. Don't act like the cow that kicks over the pail which she has just filled with milk. You have done the chief part, and now you fail at the last. Do stop. Believe me, and come with me to the city of this king, where you may sell me for a slave if you will." The fox never dreamed that he could be outforced by a woman, so he agreed to travel on with her. But they had hardly gone 50 paces when she lifted up the stick she carried and gave him such a neat rap that he forthwith stretched his legs. Then she put his blood into the little bottle, and setting off again she stayed not till she came to Big Valley, where she went straightway to the royal palace and sent word that she was come to cure the prince. Then the king ordered her to be brought before him, and he was astonished at seeing a girl undertake a thing which the best doctors in his kingdom had failed to do. However, a trial could do no harm, and so he said he wished greatly to see the experiment made. But Grannonia answered, "If I succeed, you must promise to give him to me for a husband." The king, who looked on his son to be even as already dead, answered her, "If you give him to me safe and sound, I will give him to you sound and safe, for it is no great matter to give a husband to her that gives me a son." So they went to the chamber of the prince, and hardly had she anointed him with the blood, when he found himself just as if nothing had ever ailed him. Grannonia, when she saw the prince stout and hearty, bade the king keep his word. Whereupon he, turning to his son, said, "My son, a moment ago you were all but dead, and now I see you alive, and can hardly believe it. Therefore, as I have promised this maiden that if she cured you, she should have you for a husband, now enable me to perform my promise, by all the love you bear me, since gratitude obliges me to pay this debt." When the prince heard these words, he said, "Sir, I would that I was free to prove to you the love I bear you, but as I have already pledged my faith to another woman, you would not consent that I should break my word, nor would this maiden wish that I should do such a wrong to her whom I love, nor can I indeed alter my mind." Grannonia, hearing this, felt a secret pleasure not to be described, at finding herself still alive in the memory of the prince. Her whole face became crimson as she said, "If I could induce this maiden to resign her claims, would you then consent to my wish?" "Never," replied the prince, "will I banish from this breast the fair image of her whom I love. I shall ever remain of the same mind and will, and I would sooner see myself in danger of losing my place at the table of life than play so mean a trick." Grannonia could no longer disguise herself, and discovered to the prince who she was; for, the chamber having been darkened on account of the wound in his head, he had not known her. But the prince, now that he recognised her, embraced her with a joy that would amaze you, telling his father what he had done and suffered for her. Then they sent to invite her parents, the King and Queen of Longfield, and they celebrated the wedding with wonderful festivity, making great sport of the great ninny of a fox, and concluding at the last of the last that "pain doth indeed a seasoning prove unto the joys of constant love." End of chapter 14.